Hello and welcome to From the Be All End, the Burnley podcast. We've just got together just after Burnley's 1-0 defeat to Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A game of very few chances, one or two chances with the Clarets towards the end. And it has to be said, a little lack of quality from either side as well. I'm Andrew Greaves, with me Simon Evans, Paul Woodhouse and Chris Borden. Simon, Vincent described that as the kind of the ideal draw for us before, and we were kind of surmising whether that meant, it meant we were going to go out, but we weren't, going out to a lower league team. It kind of almost feels as that game panned out like the perfect draw for us, didn't it, really? We didn't disgrace ourselves. We didn't get pummeled. We showed some flashes, could have probably snatched a replay at the end, but we've gone out valiantly, haven't we?
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, it was a poor game overall, I think. I think a neutral watching that game wouldn't have been particularly entertained. And the crowd, you didn't feel like that stadium that can generate a really good atmosphere, and it felt like a bit like a reserve team sort of atmosphere there. And Spurs never got going. They never really got anywhere near their best. They didn't play with the fluency that they can do. Left with the sort of feeling that we could have beaten them, really. They were there for the taking to a degree. Some really solid defending, both central defenders, Dalquois and O'Shea had excellent games. Probably both had their best games for Burnley this season, I think. But up front, we're just so lightweight. Amdouni had two good chances. The one at the end, I don't know what his weird position he gets into, but it's just not coming off for him, is it? But yeah, I left feeling like what could have been like a 1-0 away win, a bit of a cup upset, and here we go. But we just, Foster going off at half time, he was poor. But then bringing on Brun Larsen up front just gave us a very lightweight front line, and we never seemed to have that option to put him under pressure with some long balls or a more direct style. So a bit disappointing, really.
Yeah, and Woody, I mean, Simon mentioned the substitution there. It didn't feel like we kind of knew what we were going to do with Brun Larsen, because, like you say, he's not going to win headers in the way that Jay perhaps might rough a central defender up and get his body in the way and drop a ball back for Amdouni. But have you got the same feeling as Simon that it's one of them? Actually, Spurs were quite beatable tonight. They were a bit lethargic. They were a bit lackluster at times. Didn't massively trouble us, but we've come away having got beat.
Yes. Spurs played like a side that didn't want to get any more injuries and didn't quite get out of second gear, although they never looked like they had another gear to go into. I think Amdouni had a little mini nightmare. He played like he was up front for Chelsea. And I think when Brun Larsen coming on, obviously, not only was he not going to win a header, but we also lost any straight line speed that Foster would have had. There was that little but like that little moment in the second half where he received the ball off Amdouni, and Foster, he was on the shoulder of the last man, and he probably would have gone off and at least made a chance out of it, and Brun Larsen didn't have the legs to do it. So again, there's that silly little mistake in transition off Amdouni, which we've done far too many times this season. And so, yeah, while we obviously had the better chances, we still didn't do quite enough to win it. And apart from maybe Charlie Taylor's hopefully not too serious injury, it looked like a shoulder, didn't it? He was holding his shoulder. So maybe we'll get a left back after all, after Christmas.
Yeah, and Chris, at one point, I think Clive Tilsley was certainly on the UK feed talking about his revolutionary new scan as you shop for substitutes. He was suggesting you could just do away with the number boards and just have a QR code. One goes off and one comes in some kind of automated Amazon supermarket. It was that kind of game, wasn't it? It was one of them that kind of the crowd didn't feel up for it. The players, both sides, were sloppy as hell at times. But in the end, it's a bit of a worldie that's won it. But again, of our own kind of making, aren't we? Architects of our own downfall with that passage of play leading up to it.
Yeah, it's obviously much too long to spend thinking about that bizarre theory. Clive, he's a smashing fella, by the way. So many people will remember his voiceover on the 92 Champions video. He got long history with Burnley and one of the best in the business, I think. But no, just look. That's it. I'm with Simon. I've got a feeling. I'm encouraged, but I've got a feeling of disappointment because like Spurs were eminently beatable tonight. I don't think they score all night, but for an absolute thunder bastard. And I'll give the lad 99 more chances to do that, and he won't do it. Let's take him down to Spurs training ground tomorrow. Give him another 99 bashes. He won't score that goal again. It's just, and again, it's just I'm Dooney. I mean, the amount of times he slipped tonight, whether he got the wrong boots on, the wrong studs, but that it was just indicative. We know he's such a technically gifted player, but he can also do. You know, he has these moments where he makes the basics look difficult. You know, it's. And again, the chance at the end, it's come to him at an awkward angle. But if you remember the goal he scored at Forest in the League Cup, and certainly at Villa last weekend, he's got the ability to take that chance. And it's quite telling that we've struggled so long in terms of attacking set plays. And, big Muric is the answer, isn't he?
Great flick on. It was a great flick on with that.
Yeah,
so fabulous. I mean, he's a big lad. He should be winning. Headers and stuff like that. And generally, give it. I mean, he took a few risks with a few of his, with his distribution at times. But generally, I thought his distribution was decent, and he was Peter the Cat, wasn't he? With his saves, he was making them look like, proper for the television moments. But, I just. Overall, I'm disappointed. Used to speak often to Tony Scholes, and he always used to say to me, "So it's a sad day when you're out of the FA Cup," and I tend to agree with him. I think it's we all sort of spoke of our hopes and dreams in this morning's podcast, and it's all of a sudden, I'm not getting my new Armani suit.
I know, it's an absolute shocker that. Simon was on booking.com at one point booking hotels for FA Cup final day. And now
fully refundable May 25th bookings.
Yeah. One flight from Miami, one careful owner, never used. That's going on the Facebook market page tomorrow. But let's talk about Muric, shall we, for a little for a second, because I would say, arguably, as much as we can criticise Amdouni, there's no real need for Muric to be in such a rush to get that ball out, is there? His throw is kind of that weird little throw over the top, kind of puts Amdouni in a little bit of trouble. I think if Amdouni lets it run across his body rather than going for the nutmeg, he's probably away from Porro. But it kind of, there's a lot of love in for obviously Muric being back in the side, and I thought his distribution at times was better than Trafford, and at times it wasn't as good as Trafford's. But Woody, we kind of clamoured for Muric early in the season, and we've kind of settled into Trafford and his shot stopping. Did we see anything tonight that suggests we were right at the start of the season and Vincent was wrong?
I thought overall he had a pretty solid game. And he looked like a guy who had a point to prove. He looked like he wanted to be there. He looked like he wanted to play, unlike a lot of other folks on that pitch tonight. And it's the tempo that he sets. He sets the tempo differently, like an outfield player sets a tempo. And that's the main difference between him and Trafford. It was very nice to see him do his little Cruyff turn. That was a nice little moment. But other than that, he made some reasonable saves. There was nothing out of the ordinary or extraordinary that he had to do. Commanded his box very well, better than I remembered. And I think I don't know. I would have said beforehand that Trafford's been doing enough, but kind of Muric reminded us a little bit more again of what we miss a little bit. But to your point, Greaves, some of his distribution was a little bit harem-scarum at times.
That ball out that went to Amdouni that he lost possession of, we saw that quite a lot last season, that quick ball out to the wide area. And so many times we saw Zarori just skip away from somebody and suddenly start a counter-attack, or maybe Benson on the other side, or Teller doing that kind of thing. And it does make you wonder, in the Premier League, whether that would happen as much, or maybe these players like Amdouni aren't as aware of that as Zaruri was last season and so on, because he's had a stinker as Amdouni, hasn't he, with 2 chances and then giving it away for the goal, poor lad. But I thought with Muric, you just got a feeling of authority with him, though, with the saves and the way he handles the ball. There's something about Trafford. It's absolutely not a criticism, because there's nothing he can do about it. But it's that young lad feeling with Trafford when he's around, and even the way he fits into his shirt and how carries himself and that sort of thing. Whereas Muric, it feels like having like a big Premier League keeper in goal. But I don't think he did anything, and Trafford hasn't done anything bad either to merit a change. He's made his decision, and that's the way we're going with it.
Yeah, it was interesting. A few times you could hear, a fairly big booming keepers, from Muric as he was coming to claim balls. So I 100% agree with that. I think the way he commands his box was a little bit, I'd kind of forgotten how commanding he can be and how commanding he was in the second half of last season. Yeah. I think the playing out from the back a couple of times in the first half, and you mentioned there, the awareness of Amdouni. There was a couple of times when he played very similar balls to what he did last season, and Ramsey kept losing it. And again, I wonder whether that's the Premier League, the difference in quality, or Chris, is that Ramsey's just not as aware. Now, Lee Dixon was saying, look, Muric should be looking. Muric can see everything in front of him, hit it long. I've kind of thought about it. Do you think it's up to Muric, or is it just that, Ramsey should just be a little bit better at that quick ball around the corner rather than, trying to take it in? And we've seen that with Ramsey a couple of times, haven't we, where he tries to take the ball in and then he loses it. Is it the step up, or is it just the players perhaps not yet being up to speed with what Muric would want to do or what the system requires?
It's a bit of both, isn't it? Also take into account, Muric has only started in cup games. Ramsey has fleetingly started. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you how many times, but it's in low figures. So neither are sort of used to playing with each other than on the training park. But the one in particular Lee Dixon picked up, it was similar to the one at Wolves, where there were 3 opposition shirts converging, but we criticised Muric for if you remember the goal against Blackpool in the 3 apiece last season, where he gave it Josh Cullen, and Cullen got robbed, and Blackpool score. It's the risk reward, isn't it? You're going to get that. But Muric loves he loves to fizz that pass, between the lines. He plays it into feet, looking for a quick interchange, and all of a sudden Burnley are out. And it's I say Ramsey. The worrying thing is for a player who's so good higher up the pitch that we've seen in patches, the amount of times he gives away possession in his own defensive third, and you will be punished as he has been, rather unfortunately at Villa, as it turned out. But that's just, surely you know what Muric is all about. He must have seen enough sort of clips and enough of him in training.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at some stats on Vitinho. I didn't think Vitinho had too bad a game. I saw a few people on social media kind of calling out Vitinho, and I had a couple of people text me saying they don't think he's good enough. But 83% pass completion, 20 out of 24 passes, won 13 out of 17 ground duels, and made eight tackles, 1 clearance, 1 interception.
One absolute pig's ear of a fabulous crossing opportunity.
And then
is that when all the text messages start arriving after that cross?
It genuinely was, because that was he'd done the hard work. He dropped the shoulder, got past his man, and then made an absolute Horlicks of the cross into the box.
My trainer went through the TV at that stage. Yeah.
It is weird, isn't it, how we watch football matches? Because I've seen a lot of people slating quite a lot of them performances tonight. But listen, we weren't great from a passing point of view, but we've already talked about the two centre halves having incredible, their best games for Burnley. Lee Dixon, who's a man who knows how to defend, picked out Delquar and O'Shea. And I've been critical of O'Shea, but I thought he was fantastic. There is some positive signs there. If you look at the way we played against Spurs, albeit with Son, albeit with Maddison, etc., etc. But that is as full a strength side as Ange can put out at the minute, given the injuries and the absentees. But Simon, there's little bits there, isn't there, which you just think it's almost our season in a nutshell, isn't it? We don't take his chances. We're too lightweight. But defensively, we've looked decent. We've kept an unchanged, barring the enforced change. There's signs, isn't there? There's growth signs with that performance tonight, isn't there? Even if they're only small.
Well, the two centre halves are definitely the biggest positive of the night. Their performances, I would say Delquart did very well, and O'Shea at times was outstanding. I thought he really caught the eye as a central defender. I thought he did really, really well, and he's a player who a lot of us were saying earlier in the season, what a duff signing. He's just not up to it, and he's starting to prove us wrong. He's looking really solid now, but there's other performances there. Amdouni and Ramsey are the ones that come to mind. And Brun Larson, to be honest, who did absolutely nothing after he came on, I thought. He looked so lightweight. His technical ability is there, and we've seen it, but he just doesn't seem to have that sort of... I don't know. I mean, he doesn't get great service, but there doesn't seem to be that zip there or that energy there. He felt like a little bit... It looked like he was going through the motions a bit tonight, like he was a bit down or something. But maybe it's just because he's not getting the service that he expects, or he's playing in that weird position as well. I mean, I don't know what he was supposed to be, a false nine, is it? Are we going down that route with it? But we're short of quality, like proper quality that hurts people in the final third, especially if Foster's like not there. And I think if we're going back to that transfer window discussion, there's a few things pop up tonight that really strike you, which is like if Charlie Taylor's injured, although Al-Dakhil did quite well at left back, I don't want to be paying a month with Al-Dakhil at left back.
No,
we've no backup for Charlie Taylor at all, as we've said a million times. And that centre forward again, if Foster's not there and he's not bringing on Jay for whatever reason, then, we can't expect to win games with a front line of Trezor, who ain't got going yet, Brun Larson, who ain't really got going yet, and whoever else was floating around, Amdouni, who's it's not coming off for him a lot. It's not coming off for him a lot. I know he got a good goal at Villa the other week, but he's not taking his chances. He's a bit of a Neely man still, isn't he? So
the suggestion is that Connor Roberts might go to Leeds. So, I mean, you need a bit of competition at right back potentially. And if Charlie Taylor's going to be missing, I mean, we already needed a left back. You can't let Connor Roberts out of the building, can you?
No, that'd be madness. Yeah.
But madness, Woody, is kind of what Vincent does this year, isn't it? We said that when the lineup came. I think, and it doesn't help that we do the lineup in numerical order, so you can't really work out who's meant to be playing where. But it is kind of, I don't know if you expected Zaroury. We were sending Zaroury to Hull City in yesterday's podcast on Friday. And all of a sudden he pops up in the starting lineup. If you're Nathan Redmond, you must be thinking, Christ almighty, I've been sat on this bench and someone's come from, basically come from Gawthorpe to take a place in a starting lineup. It almost felt a little bit like that square pegs in round holes discussion we've had so many times in the opening few games from a selection point of view, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It seems to be, and we are mirroring our kind of championship season a little bit, but the difference is that with the championship season, when we were taking people out, bringing people in, they could slot in, we could change it around a little bit, and the opposition went nowhere near the class and caliber of what we're seeing now. If in the Premier League this year, if we tweak just the tiniest little bit of a thing, stuff starts to fall to bits quite quickly. You know, we don't have the luxury of being able to play square pegs in round holes. It just all falls to pieces extremely quickly, and we need to have something approaching the right types of players in the right types of positions for the right types of roles. You know, from the start to the finish for 90+ minutes, and that's where we obviously kind of fell down a little bit today. Not being able to fall back on, anything like a centre forward, and it's a little bit of a shame because you can see that progression. You can see these players getting better. You can see the side getting better. You can see Vincent learning, arguably, and it feels like it would be disappointing for us to come out of this league as we'll probably get to the end of the season and look like we really do quite belong. In the Premier League this time around. So I'd like to see us get the right types of players in this window to support that.
Yeah, definitely. And just finally, on Zarori's performance, Chris, just what did you make of Zarori? Obviously, we've talked a lot about his impact last season and, him being out in the cold, and we talked about, rumours of an attitude problem. I guess the fact that he started today ahead of people like Redmond perhaps suggests there isn't an attitude problem. But did you think he did anything to kind of stake a claim against Luton a week on Monday?
No, not whatsoever. You could see he's really anxious to impress and anxious to the point where he's sort of snatching at stuff. He's not had enough starts to have any sort of momentum and match fitness, match sharpness, and as we saw on the opening night when he was he caught Kyle Walker and was sent off. There's a couple of occasions where he's desperate to win the ball back and he's rashing the challenge, and he could have got himself in some trouble again there disciplinary wise, and it's just a shame. It's just not panning out. I did wonder whether he might play sort of Amdouni from the right and play Zarori off the front, because we're pondering whether obviously Odebear's more suited to the left-hand side, as is Zarori. And, I don't think either really enjoy that right-sided role. Just didn't work for him.
By the way, those numbers we were wearing on the shirts that are new, this new font.
The new font,
I noticed they've got this little B in the bottom of it, which is the same as the one that Pace has been wearing on his baseball cap. Are we heading for some Stealth 3 brand here that's going on, do you think? What's that about?
Oh, shit.
We're going to be some American college football side sort of look about it, isn't there? But
he does, doesn't it? It looks like a kind of Little League baseball logo. And the problem I've got with it, and I made this point to somebody this morning when I was chatting to him about it. I don't mind kind of supplementary branding like that. So the B, I think, actually isn't too bad. And if you want a piece of merchandise that's a bit more subtle to wear than having a crest on something, I think it works all right. My biggest problem is it looks like something from a Bavarian tavern. It looks like an Oktoberfest
it's got
logo, doesn't it?
Vaguely German Gothic sort of feel about it, hasn't it?
It's not very modern. Apparently, them numbers are just for FA Cup games. We're not going to see them again this season. Although the women will also be wearing them in the Women's FA Cup. And they don't actually go on sale until tomorrow. So they go on sale after we've already exited the Men's FA Cup. Which is just Pace-esque, isn't it? Let's be honest. But I do quite like his baseball cap. I have to say, I quite like the B on the baseball cap. It's not as good as the cap that Vincent wears with the circular logo. But I do wonder if it's a precursor. Simon, you're right. I do wonder if it's a precursor to them attempting something like United have done with their third kit. I think it is this year. They've just got the devil rather than the full United badge with the ship and things like that. So
yeah, Everton have their away kit. They've just got like the outline of the church spire, haven't they? Like,
The tower, yeah.
I do wonder.
Tower,
I think you're right. I wonder if it's going to be a precursor to that. But apparently, it went through the fans advisory board. So,
that's good then.
So there you go. We will launch our own. We are launching our fans panel, and we're going to have more details of that by the time we see you again next week for the main podcast. It's a chance for everyone to get involved. We're not going to allow the club to choose the members of that particular fans panel. We're going to set some questions. We're going to get you to send in some voice notes, and we're going to play some of those voice notes at the end of different episodes, and perhaps have a bit of a wider discussion every month or so, every couple of months, and then share all the views online as well.
Are you suggesting that the other one may have been handpicked by the club?
Oh God, no! I wouldn't dare, Simon. I wouldn't dare. And I've got nothing against the fans advisory board. I think part of the problem is they're being hung out to dry by the club, because the club will say, "Well, we consulted," and what they actually do is they tell them after the event that this is what we're going to do. So the drummer, for instance, was mentioned briefly, I believe, many months ago, and then suddenly it became this kind of policy that's now disappeared, thanks to our friend Bobby Ball.
So we're going to send Bobby the collective wisdom of our fan.
We are, yeah. That's what we're going to do. We're going to reveal a little bit more once we've got our ducks in a row. But that's the plan. The plan is we're going to have our own fans panel, and we're going to email him all the things. We're going to set things. He'll
be thrilled about that, won't he?
Oh, he's going to love it. He's going to love it.
Mm.
He'll be twanging them braces like there's no tomorrow. Anyway, let's leave it there, because it's now approaching 25 to 11 at night. What a weird podcast that's been, because we said there's loads of positives and there's loads of progress, things like that. And we've slated 2/3.
Dara the Rock O'Shea was the big
Dara the Rock O'Shea. But let's just appreciate Dara O'Shea and Hannes Delcroix, the two rocks at the back. For Burnley. We will see you next week for the regular podcast. The good thing about a Friday night game, of course, is that you've got the rest of your weekend to yourself. You don't have to worry about what the Clarets are up to. Whatever you're doing, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next time. Up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson. Go.